Start streaming. Okay. We gonna work now?
Give me time to watch the other Swarm semifinals match. Will you
All good.
figure it out? I get to figure out who my finals opponent is.
Let's see. Oh, here we go. Yay. Okay. I think that is... Let's see. Oh, here we go.
In the Seattle area, the job market is booming. Getting a business degree at WGU can be life.
Yay. Okay. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah. I just gotta edit a title and we're good.
All right.
Okay, so those ones I can delete forever. There we go. Okay.
Oh shit, this video has been removed by the uploader.
Yeah, because that one wasn't working, so I'm sharing a new one. See if this one... That should be...
Yeah. I'm on it now.
Okay, cool.
Oh, I can hear myself on it. I gotta mute the YouTube.
Yeah, I was gonna... I was gonna say... Okay, announcements up. And I'm right on time. Oh, you'll love to see it.
Perfect.
Gosh darn. Let's see. Cool. All right, we are here.
We are live.
Wait. Live chat's being silly. Oh. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I made my chat disappear. Hold on. Once I get that back, then I think we'll be ready to go.
Sounds good
unless
to me.
Unless you just want to be the one to keep track of chat for me and respond to stuff.
Yeah, works for me.
Okay. Alrighty. Let's see. We are live, yeah. All right, so yeah, welcome into the NHL, the Nido King Heritage League. I am one of your, I don't know, humble, but I'm one of your hosts, Stormtide.
And I'm the other one, Glitter and Ellis.
We are your commissioners for the league, and it's been a interesting league to see come together as we kind of brainstormed this over, like a few days and kind of threw it together. Like, went full force.
Yeah, what was it? Thursday morning of talking about it in a whole rulebook all at once.
Yeah, we drafted a CBA for a fantasy sports league, and it got us here, which is pretty
I
neat.
got it.
But
And here we are, finally at the introductory preview stream to go ahead and recap the draft and free agency, and take a look at our teams and reveal our season one match or week one matchups.
absolutely. And hold on, I got something loading real quick. Oh, it's struggling. Come on, computer. Hold up. Ugh.
Yeah, no worries.
OBS is threatening to crash. Come on. There we go. Okay. Open this up in a new tab. There we go. Now I can actually see
Not
the
enough
chat.
Nido King season.
All right. Welcome, welcome. There are 5 Nido Kings on your screen. That's not nearly enough.
No, we can get those numbers up.
Exactly. So let's start with. Do you want to start with draft overview or roster look?
Um,
I think
I think
draft.
we can go ahead and work the. Yeah, let's do draft them.
Yeah, because that's where we started. So if you're wanting just a little preface, so we started with 3 rounds of draft for our 12 inaugural teams. And that way people had an opportunity to lock in some Pokemon to contracts so they didn't have to compete with other people in bids. And so you get a higher value contract round 1, and then round 2 and 3 you get less seasons that are attached to that contract at a fixed price. And some of them are more favorable than others. And we'll talk about that when we dive into free agency, because we do think there are some relative steals and possibly some overpays as well. But the inaugural draft board, if we look at this, there is a lot. Basically, everything has been taken that is of relevance. So 18 through 14, 13, 12. We have
11.
to get to 11. Marowak is the highest tier Gen 3 mon that was not drafted, which is pretty incredible.
No, it was also kind of intentional. To be fair, we did want people to go ahead and have to pick some of the lower tier mons, to make sure there is enough competition, or to make sure there's enough competition to get some bidding wars going.
Yeah,
Just clearly it worked.
It did, and unlike more traditional drafts where you see more of like a even spread or a slope that's leaning more towards the expensive, everything expensive is gone, so people are going to really enjoy hopefully running out fairly strong teams for Gen 3 standards. But overall, our draft pick board...
Which incidentally, by the way, is why we didn't start with Gen 1. As fun as starting with Gen 1 would have been, and it doesn't sound like the NBA is going to do a Gen 1 off-season draft, but I really wish they would.
You say that, but
we would be running like wheel in the 3rd round.
You know, that is an evil I don't want to put on anybody. Running a Gen 1 draft.
I think it would be really funny. Would it make for the healthiest game? No.
But like, would you want to play it after like 2
minutes.
weeks? That's the thing.
Well, that's why you got to do a shorter season. But I mean, I guess we did shorten the season here, even with real Pokemon that people are drafting down to 5 weeks, which honestly I think was the right decision, just because it meant that we could start to get through the individual generations as we went without people getting hung up on, oh, I really freaking hate the Gen 4 metagame or something like that.
Right. So shorter seasons are an intentional design, because if you're really not a fan of Gen 3 or 4 or one of these older gens, you're not stuck there forever. And we have decent breaks in between with like free agency and off season as well. But looking ahead at the future draft picks, some people have already been trading, which is really nice to see. We have an additional first round pick that has been traded, or two, it looks like. So
there was the Obama Snow Dynamax just traded on the site.
Now, so the Abominable Snow traded with the Driftveil Drillburs.
Oh, this was all the way at the start. You're right. I got that one mixed up. Yeah.
Yeah, so they traded up one spot to take a future first to take T-Tar.
Yeah, and it does occur to me this document is incorrect because it says the Abomasnow draft pick is currently given to the Abomasnow. Let's just go ahead and fix that. Never happened.
Yeah, as we can see, the RP Lipscoons, that's Guts Brigade. No second or third rounders, but a lot of action happening actually for Gen 5 draft picks. The Guts Brigade is kind of stockpiling.
Yeah.
Which is nice to see.
They've gotten some picks from the, is the Drillburs right there?
That is the Zigzagoons, and then, Driftveil Drillburs again.
Yeah.
So we have to account for future trades.
Away the Gen 5 second round?
Say that again?
Did the Drillburs trade away their Gen 5 second round to the Guts Brigade? I don't remember that one.
We can go back and check the trade log.
Yeah. That sounds good to me.
Yep. So let's...
But either way, regardless of whether or not that pick is there, the Guts Brigade has really gone ahead and started trading away, or started trading for all these sorts of picks. And something is definitely wrong with the doc. I'll have to go ahead and fix this.
I'm glad we're recognizing it on stream. It's all good.
I think I put them in the right order, and then for some reason, you know what happens?
What?
I'm taking the list of teams from the standings, like on the front page, or the back of the doc, so show on the front page.
Yeah.
But because we inputted a game, it changed the order.
Because it got reseeded. Oh, okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's on me. I'll go ahead and fix that after the call to make sure that doesn't happen, and re-put in all the correct deals. I knew I was looking at the rookie trades
because I thought I looked at it yesterday and it looked normal. So yeah, it was the game that was.
It did, and yeah. But in any case, the Guts Brigade have been going ahead and hoovering up a whole lot of picks from the Bouncers, from the Avalogs, from the Bouncers again, I think.
Yeah.
And I like it. I think it's a really good strategy. I do think it'll have some consequences for their team this season. Spoiler alert for when we get to the team recaps and maybe some power rankings later on. But I do think it'll set them up really nicely for future seasons.
And that's kind of the beauty
I
of
also love
running this league is you get to see different approaches to team building and whether people are more invested in one generation or another.
Oh, yeah. And I really appreciate that some teams are starting to say, well, my Gen 3 draft isn't so great, so I'm going to not punt on it, but I'm going to start saving up to make sure I can have a really good Gen 4 and Gen 5. And I really think that's one of the things I'm looking forward to most with this league, seeing all these different strategies that people are cooking up.
So, speaking of that, let's look at some rosters and start doing some breakdown.
Sounds good to me. So, do we want to go in alphabetical order or in potentially reverse power ranking order?
Let's just go from top left and then go horizontally, then go row by row. I think that's
good to me.
Easiest. Which would start us with the Etobicoke Obama Snow. I hope I said that right.
So I really like the Etobicoke Obama Snow. So I really like this team. For starters, their first couple of draft picks, it was Salamence with the early pick, and then I have Fortress and Jug Trio were the second and third rounds. And I think those are really going to work well together. Salamence is just an absolute monster. Good on defensive utility, being a wish supporter in Gen 3, which is kind of rare. and intimidate and stuff like that, it can go ahead and just be this terrifying Dragon Dance sweeper. And I think Fortress and Doug Trio are going to synergize really well with it. Doug Trio being able to trap and remove any threats that they have. Etobicoke. I actually did not know that. I've been living in Canada for 2 years and I pronounced it wrong. Damn. But Doug Trio able to trap and remove any threats for Salamence, and Fortress being maybe the best spiker and rapid spinner in the tier, being able to really help take on all the sorts of threats that Salamence can't, being resistant to ice and dragon type moves, and get those hazard stuff, those ship stuff down, ready for a Salamence sweep.
So I'm incredibly biased because I think they got one of the best free agency deals out there, and that's Snorlax for 9 points. It's maybe not the best going into like Gen 5, but for Gen 3 and 4, Snorlax is really, really strong for that price point. I've seen it in Gen 3 drafts be taken first, second, third overall, top half of first round. So being able to snag that in free agency and then pair it with something like Salamence and Doug Trio for just raw physical output is incredible to see. And then just having all the support pieces too with like Lantorn, Regice, and Fortress. And they don't sacrifice going all in either by also snagging some key pieces for future gens in Yanma and Kirlia. So I think they got some really good deals. And again, you're left over with about 6 points of cap space, so you have a little bit of wiggle room if you need to make trades or something at the deadline to manipulate your roster.
Yeah. I think this is maybe the team that best balanced being able to pick up those future pieces with being able to compete in the now. I do think there are a few teams that really struggled where they put on, too many pieces coming into Gen 4, which will be great in Gen 4, but it's going to end up costing them this season. And this is a team where I really don't think it ended up happening. I think they had their top 6, especially Fortress, then Regice, Snorlax, and Lanturn, is just really, really good together.
Agreed. So, moving on, talking about teams that are similar, we got the Drift Veil Drillbers. This is a team it's run by NN. We should say who's running the team as well. So the Obama Snow are run by Royce Nover with the help of Jortson and Goder. And then Driftveil Drillbers are run by Azzy and NN+. So they're the ones that traded up for T-Tar, which T-Tar is undeniably... Well, I think there is some competition for it, but it is perennially the number 1 pick in a lot of Gen 3 metagames, and for good reason. It does a lot of stuff. Perma-Sand, knockoff, really high physical attack, Dragon Dance, it can run special sets. It's really hard to deal with. So when you pair that with something like Breloom, which is another really good offensive mon, Steelix to help kind of take on that physical tank role so Tyranitar can open up and do a lot of different things. And then you have, I think, one of the better offensive fast mons in the whole metagame, which is going to be Scyther, which I like it over Scissor for Gen 3 specifically, just because of the speed defenses.
And I think for Tyranitar in particular, Scyther is going to synergize really well, being able to tank those ground type moves and those fighting type moves that Tyranitar is otherwise a little bit scared of. And similarly deal with like the grass types, whereas Tyranitar can come in on the rock types and on the flying type moves that Scyther fears. I think that in particular is going to be a really underrated pickup for this team. I really like this team. The only things that I can complain about looking at the roster are no spikes. I know there are a couple of teams who ran with no spikes. And normally it's not the end of the world, but when that's your only source of hazards, I do think it's going to end up, there are definitely going to be a few games where you're really going to feel not being able to chip the opponents down with anything but Sains.
There's also the issue of Slowking being on the same team as Blastoise, where if you look at the contract structure, because I initially thought this was really bad, but I've kind of changed my tune on it, where Blastoise looks to be getting released after Gen 3, where Slowking's going to take over that kind of bulky water role after Gen 3 wraps up. So I can see why they structured their contracts the way they did. So it feels smart. And if you need it for a very specific matchup, like you want something to go against fighting types really well, you've got that.
But then that also brings up the question. First of all, I think Blastoise is going to end up coming a lot more than Slowking, you're right, just because it's the only spinner on the team. But yeah, I could definitely see some places where Slowking ends up being the water type of choice here, especially if you're on against a Spikesos team. But they also bid on Slowbro, and it's not on the sheet yet because it hasn't been officially signed. But assuming nobody else bids on Slowbro in the next 3 hours, it looks like that's going to be on their team too. And that one I do take a little bit more issue with. Because, for starters, Slowking and Slowbro together are already so similar. And it's on a 1-year deal, so it's not even like fulfilling a different role in the long term like Blastoise or Slowking.
Like I could see a longer term deal if you want to have it as like trade leverage in a future generation, but yeah, it's interesting. You also have to remember too that this team is going to be operating without their first round pick for Gen 4, so any of those really high tier Gen 4 mons that'll be coming in aren't going to be available for them to get unless it's outside of another trade. So
that's true.
But with the contracts as they're structured, but with the contracts as they're structured, I feel like they're in a pretty good spot with just the general synergy and who they wanted to keep long term versus those short term contracts.
Yeah, I agree. I think having Tyranitar, Gardevoir, and Slowking like as your 3 long-term deals here is going to work really well, especially Slowking. Because I don't think Slowking's going to be good this year, but Gen 4 and Gen 5, I think that 5-point deal is just going to age better and better.
Yeah, I agree. And,
yeah, I think they're in a good balance to compete for now and Gen 4 and Gen 5.
Absolutely. Let's look at the next team that we got on the docket, and that is the wonderful Colorado Avalugs. Oh.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me adjust the screen size.
Oh, yeah, no worries.
There we go.
Yeah, the Avalugs are a team I'm a little bit torn on, to be honest. I really like the team in that they have a whole lot of bulk, and they're just going to be able to sit there and continually tank hits over and over with Swampert and with Chansey and with Aggron, and even pieces like Arcanine or Executor, which can be used to, surprisingly good defensive effects. I think this team is just going to be able to sit there and tank hits all day.
I do find it kind of hilarious, though. They take every water ground type available.
Yeah, 3 water ground types really can't feel good here. Even with plenty of grass type resistances. I mean, they got Crobat, they got Executor, they got Arcanine. But I don't see a single game where Whiscash or Quagsire can. And no. Especially with those two, with Whiscash on a 1-year deal, Quagsire on a 2-year deal, so before it gets unaware, I think that only comes around Gen 5. I think those two are just using on roster spots.
Another thing that kind of strikes me as a little bit difficult to get behind is for as much offensive pressure this team can theoretically exert, it doesn't have a lot of boosting options outside of Curse, because only Machamp gets bulk up, and there is not a single Swords Dance user on the roster.
NC does get Calm Mind, though.
Yeah, I'm talking physical. Like, on the special side, yeah. Yeah, but when your special options primarily are going to be Exeggutor and Arcanine, I think only Exeggutor gets Calm Mind.
Exeggutor doesn't get Calm Mind Gen 3.
Oh, so that's not... That's rough.
At least not according to the sheet.
So, pack your Pitaya Berry. You're going to need it.
The other thing I want to note is that this team doesn't have any spikes or any removal. Not a single rapid spinner, not a single spiker. And that's a little less bad here in Gen 3 OU than it is in Gen 3 OU. Just because there are less spikers to go around, there are some teams that don't have spikers. And not having a single rapid spinner, especially when you're running a kind of balanced, kind of bulky team, I think that's going to end up really hurting them. I think that's going to, against the teams that have spikes,
You can get away with that on
It's
certain teams where you have like ground immunities. You go with like that Superman kind of build. But the only thing dodging them is going to be Crobat.
yeah, that is true. There are a few teams like we're not going to spoil them, but there are a few teams that don't have a spinner or don't have a good spinner, but they have like 3, 4, 5 ground immunes. But here with Crobat being the only one, it's gonna. I feel like that's something they're desperately gonna miss.
Oh, where'd he go?
That said, I do think that's just like the main thing this team is missing. Like, slap a Claydol on this team, and I think it's the best in the league. But I do think that on its own is really going to end up hurting them in the long run.
Okay. You want to move on?
Yeah.
All right.
And yeah, there are only seven legal spikers, Ethan. But I do think that the teams that can afford to lose them are more of those hyper offensive teams. And there are some teams where I don't think not having a spiker is going to hurt them that much. Like we'll see as we get on later. But or a team that's ostensibly trying to portray itself as a bulkier one, I do think that's a team that's really missing spikes or removal.
So the next team is the Saffron City Starmies. So they had an interesting kind of bidding strategy in which they didn't. They waited a lot. I think the first few days. I think Sky Knight was on vacation, so he delegated a lot of his team bidding, but they were kind of the last ones of the show to get in on some bids, and that can be in your favor and also against it, because against it, I mean, sometimes you miss out on mons you really want that synergize with your draft picks, but can be working really for you because when you start bidding on certain mons, a lot of people have already expended their salary caps, so you can outbid them if you really need to. And that's where you can see they came in and kind of swooped in and took Miltank, which I think Miltank's a really good normal type to have for Gen 3. Very good utility, good ability, decent defenses. This team is on the lighter side. It's still got one bid going through, I believe. So if you look at the bid tracker, and yes,
they have the bid on Magmar.
They're waiting on Magmar. So they got a 1 point for 2-season bid on Magmar, which hey, you get Magmortar next season. Not too bad. But this team. Oh, did you want to go? Go for it.
Yeah, sure. I do really want to call attention to. I think Miltank and Hypno are going to end up acquitting themselves nicely on this roster. I know they maybe weren't the first choice as far as like bulky normals or psychics for most of the teams in the league, but I think here especially they're going to end up pairing really well with this team. I think against Oyster they've already got the physical side of the physical defenses covered. And I think here with Miltank and Hypno kind of taking turns as especially defensive pieces, depending on whether or not they're facing a fighting type or what, I think that is going to end up working really well for this team.
Yeah. Some other things of note too, due to the type congruency here, it's not the most resilient against a lot of hidden power strategies. As if you've been following and keeping track, remember hidden power is legal. This would be nigh unplayable without it, in my opinion. So when you have a spread of mons that share a lot of weaknesses or you have a lot of holes in your roster, it really opens up the opportunity for your opponents to pick hidden power of very favorable types to give them that extra kind of super effective edge in a given match. And whereas like for this roster, it's like I like how they mons work together, but it does feel that the lack of early bidding did hurt it in the long run. I think next season will be interesting.
The synergy in this team is good, but the stats aren't there.
Yeah, when you look at like base stat totals, like if we compare this to the Colorado Avalugs, I might not like everything about the Avalugs team, but we can't deny that they just have lots and lots of bulk, and that in and itself is just valuable to have.
It also looks like we're seeing in the chat, Ethan saying that the Starmies are likely taking Moltres.
Oh, okay.
Which I think would be really good for this team.
That is interesting.
Like we said, this is a team that does generally synergize well, but doesn't have the stats. And I think Moltres, especially in a season without spikes, is going to provide the sort of stats that they need.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how much it'll help. It'll help type wise. It won't help their lack of dragon resistances or their rock weakness. It certainly won't help there. But I do think that just having another bulky mon that has a big stat total of a bajillion, is going to end up doing them wonders across the season.
I agree. All right. Let's keep bouncing around. Let's go over to... Let me see back over here. Let's look at the DC Dynamaxers. So, the DC Dynamaxers, they first picked Zapdos, which was a very fun pick to snag up early. And then they went all in with Kingdra, Scizor, Nidoqueen, Venusaur, Dusclops, Blaziken, and then kind of rounding it out with some support picks in Mightyena, Grumpig, and Wigglytuff. What do you think about this?
I really don't know how to feel about it. I think this is a team that would look a lot scarier if we were like in Gen 9 net decks rather than Gen 3 draft.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of mons here that are going to end up being a lot better later. Like Scizor doesn't have Technician yet. Blaziken doesn't have Speed Boost yet, and Speed Boost is banned in any case. There's not a whole lot of weather mons yet for like Swiftstone Kingdra, or Chlorophyll Venusaur if it were around in Gen 9. This is a team that would look really scary on a similar power level draft in Gen 9, but I think a few of these mons are going to take a little while to come into their own. That said, their biggest name mons, Scizor and Kingdra and Zapdos and Nidoqueen and Venusaur, are all on the roster through Gen 5, and I think this is the team that's going to end up looking really scary in Gen 5. It's just not sure how it's going to work out here in Gen 3.
Yeah. I do like some of the lower end stuff. Like, I think Grumpig is a pretty good value pick for 2 points, and Mightyena, it's not going to come to every game, but it does get Heal Bell. So there is that. It has Intimidate. There is some utility there. Omastar, I do think, has a little bit of crossover with Kingdra for kind of role it wants to play, but when you, as like a Swift Swim sweeper, because a lot of times you see those set rain for themselves, and then they'll fire off water moves. But Omastar is going to be your spiker, which is nice to bring for certain matchups when your opponent doesn't have a lot of levitators or flying types. Wigglytuff, it's I believe it gets Wish this early on, doesn't it? It doesn't get Heal Bell though.
I think it does get Wish, yeah.
Yeah. Dusclops is again another bulky mon, and then yeah, it's one I'm torn on because I like certain aspects of it later on, but I think this is one of those drafts where it's just kind of right in the middle, and you kind of nailed it with saying it looks much scarier if you put it in the context of like Gen 9 Nat decks, but in Generation 3, when you kind of take into consideration what the meta is for that, is there are some better mons that right now operate in those kind of roles, but kind of fall off later on.
Yeah. And that said, especially since they've got most of their team locked down to long rosters, there's absolutely nothing wrong with saying I've got a pretty good team now that's going to end up being really scary a generation or two from now. I think if that's the strategy they went for, they absolutely nailed that.
Yeah. And again, it's not like a bad core or anything, and I see people commenting like Zapdos is crazy. Yep. Like, yeah, I agree. It is really good. But just looking at the whole of it, how it puts together and stacking against some of the other high tier threats that other people collected. I do think it has a little bit of meat on the bone left, but it's not bad by any stretch.
Yeah, I'm with you here.
All right, I'm gonna swing on over to the Guts Brigade.
And this is a team that is definitely building themselves up for a future generation. I traded away a lot of their top Pokemon in exchange for picks, and I gotta say, I really respect the strategy. Going all in for Gen 4, Gen 5, that's going to be really scary when it comes around.
When I look at this roster, I think this is someone that's betting on their skill to play more so than the power of respective mons in a given generation, which is one hell of a gamble, depending on your familiarity with the generation. But I do, like you said, it is one that's getting set up, and you have to consider the draft capital too, and looking at the cap space that's available. I think it's going to be much stronger just roster-wise later on, but I'll be very interested to see how they play out the season.
Yeah, and if we are taking this team for what it is, and thinking about its future in Gen 4 or Gen 5, once they have all the draft picks, this team is very, very slow.
Yeah.
Like, Their fastest mon is 90 base speed, and it sounds like it might be being traded away soon. Um, this is already the slowest team by a decent margin, even before that. And I think having your fastest mon be a base 85 speed Gligar is going to be very frustrating in practice.
And I think the only time you can really get away with slow teams is if like you're doing just massive like spike stacking, in a lot of toxic distribution and heal bell usage, and kind of leaning into that bulk. And here, I'm not sure that's what it is. Like the most offensive, threatening Pokemon you look at on the roster, you're looking at probably Ursaring with Guts, Gligar.
Yeah, but oh yeah, here seeing that Tangela, Politoed, Lickitung, and Hitmontop are all being traded. Um, so Vaporeon and Ursaring are going to have to carry this team,
and we'll see what
they do
happens
that.
with trades that roll in as well. But it is definitely a team in flux. So I'm trying not to judge it just on the surface level because it's
Yeah,
one of the teams I like the least out of that was drafted. But I understand that there is a team vision happening here, and it is not complete yet. So,
yes, I respect the vision. Doesn't change the fact that the team is not very good right at the moment. But
but
come Gen 4, Gen 5, it's going to be a monster with all those picks.
But isn't it interesting too? Like unlike some other leagues where they're just you draft like say Generation 9 Nat decks, is there's usually no severe floor for what people draft because people try to draft optimally all the time. So we're seeing a lot of different just general strategies and approach to draft here, and I think this is being very different than some of the say like very all in or locking everybody up for contracts kind of strategies. So it's nice to see the variance, and then we'll get to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I really appreciate that teams are able to do these sorts of strategies. Um, and that's one of the things I like so much about like the free agency auction draft style kind of sort of thing we're going for. Um, and I think this is a great example for it. I'm really excited to see what happens with this team.
Absolutely. All right, so let's scoot on over to the Baltimore Corviknights.
Let's do it.
And these guys, this is the Scar and Bliss combo.
Yeah, who let the Corp Knights get those two?
So that alone, and then you throw in a Claydol and an Articuno. Because remember, rocks aren't a thing, so Articuno is still pretty darn good with just being a pile of stats. And then
Oh yeah,
Dodrio is kind of your top end of speed. You might want something a little bit faster. I think that's the only thing that really is wanting for this team is having that real 110 or 120 like take the top off of you speed. But it's still pretty darn good and well rounded overall.
yeah. I like it. I think the Scar and Bliss combo is that on its own is just going to carry. Like spoiler alert for the game that we may end up reviewing later on. I think those two just synergize really well together. I think Houndoom and Claydol both work really well with that core too. Being able to provide some special offense and that rapid spinning just to make sure that Scarm and Bliss can keep doing their thing. Um, this is a team where I think honestly Claydol having that rapid spin isn't important. Like it synergizes really well with like Blissey in particular, but they also have 5 ground immunes, which I find very funny.
Yeah, so when you're doing that and using Skarmory, you're basically saying to your opponent, like, you want to win the hazard war. You're going to outlast them.
Yeah, and I really like that somebody's taking that strategy here. I think this is going to work well.
Agreed. All right. Anything else to add there?
No, not in particular.
All right. So then we're looking at Sal's Goats. And this is another team where I looked at it and I could definitely see the immediate vision of what they want to do, and that was be fast. And mission accomplished. You are the fastest team, I believe, that has been drafted.
By a pretty decent margin.
Yeah, by a pretty significant margin. Now, with that speed does come the drawback of bulk and sustain.
Yeah, and this is one of the least bulky teams in the league. Second worst for average HP, second worst for average defense, only ninth for average special defense. And I do think that is going to come back to haunt this team. Um, like we saw earlier today, they were able to outbeat absolutely everything, but that doesn't help when you can't break through those really bulky walls that we see a lot of in Gen 3.
Yeah, this is one of the teams that said, like, hey, I want to use that evolution clause to my advantage. So they picked up Togetic, Sneasel, and Snorunt. Now, Sneasel is usable in Gen 3, but Togetic and Snorunt are kind of dead weight, for lack of a better term. They're not going to be doing anything until Gen 4. Togetic without Eviolite's not very usable, even though it does have that kind of cleric profile, so to speak. And you might think, like, well, the points aren't that bad. And you are correct. It's going to look much better in a generation or two for those point value contracts, but that is still roster space that is being occupied, right? So you have to take that into consideration of what is the opportunity cost of maybe I could have a bulkier Mon on my roster to help patch some of those holes where letting my faster Pokemon thrive instead of prepping for the future. So it's this very delicate balancing act of, can I get away with it, or do I have to find some kind of middle ground?
Yeah, I'm with you there.
That being
Especially
said,
when they have like 20 points left over.
Yeah,
like those are roster slots they could be using for.
I think that makes
the bulkier ones are still available.
Well, take this into consideration. If you have 20 salary cap available, that makes you a really good trade candidate for somebody that's stocked up on bulky mons and say wants some speed. So you can kind of haggle with them and be like, hey, I'll give you this for that. And you might take a little bit of a loss on contract, but you have that cap space because you made smart future investments.
That's true. And it looks like we are seeing reporting that Togetic or Sneasel might be taken and traded to the Gust Brigade.
Interesting. We'll keep an eye out on that.
Continuing that stretching. For me, that means the Ghosts can make that roster space and that cap space for more bulky mons. I think that would be a really good move for them.
Absolutely. So let's take a look back at... Oh, where's the roster? There we go. Slide on back. We'll look at the Philadelphia... Yeah, we're going to look at Philadelphia Bouncers.
This, I think, is the best Gen 3 team in the league right now, full stop.
Yeah, this was our consensus team to pick. Now, I will say it was fairly close between the top 3 for us. But I really liked this team a lot. They only have a little bit of cap space left. They got 2 points. But hey, 2 points is 2 points. But when you take a really strong draft approach and you take Dragonite, really good Dragon type, Celebi, you take Medicham. Medicham's one of your premier breakers. And then you get Raikou on top of that for 18, which I think is... It might look high, but for the kind of value it offers, I think it's definitely worth the price. And then you stock up on Rhydon, Registeel, Tentacruel for really good bulk. You get Glalie, so you get a Spiker in there. And you even get Kangaskhan for, like, wish value as well. So it's got kind of everything, if you look at it, which is kind of nuts.
Yeah. This team has the highest average BSD by, like, 20. And by the way, for anybody watching, I did add stuff keeping track of all that in the on the leaderboard page. And yeah, I think that's just going to serve this team so well. The only thing to note is that they have a whole bunch of ground weaknesses. But when you have Dragonite and Celebi as your ground immune and ground resist, and you're bringing those to every single game probably, I think that's absolutely a weakness that can be worked around.
Yeah, the only way I see this team getting throttled is if somebody on an opposing team has just the perfect EQ Ice Beam combo against them, and they're like, yeah, I can hit everything that you throw at me. But that isn't going to be every team. In fact, it's not going to be most teams. So...
Yeah, this is just a really good team. Incredibly bulky, hits incredibly hard. They got a Spiker. They got a Spinner. They have... all the stats. What else do you really need to say?
Now, the one worry I do have about it is if you look at the available cap space for Gen 4, they only got 20 points. So, beyond signing your first and second round draft pick, it's a team that's probably going to be fairly absent from free agency next generation. So what they've drafted here is really good, but they are kind of locked in.
That's true. But honestly, if that's a team you like, and for the record, I do like this team. I think it'll still be really good even come Gen 4. That's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
It does limit their flexibility, which sucks, but oh no, they're locked into that the same way I'm forced to buy a steak at a steak restaurant.
Right. All right. Let's go to the RB Leipzigun.
Let's take a look.
And this is, I believe they traded up to the third spot to take Metagross in the draft. So
yes, for 10 and 34, I think.
Yeah, which was, I think, a pretty decent trade when you're trying to get one of the premier mons of Generation 3. And Metagross is definitely a solid pickup. Nobody's going to shame you for that, and I think that was a fair trade to make. And then other pickups they made were Starmie, which, even though they're double psychic, I think synergize really well.
Yeah, they don't share a single weakness between Metagross and Starmie, even though they're both psychics.
But I do have to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is 14 points for Roselia. Oh,
that's wild.
Like,
I guess Plankers are expensive, and I get you're going to be able to upgrade it into Roserade next season, but still, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's one of those comparison things where if you compare it to the other evolution eligible mons, this is the only one that really breached 10 points, and it did that by several more. So it's one of those kind of lost opportunity things if you don't bring it, because that's 14 points worth of Pokemon you're leaving on the table and deciding not to bring to a matchup. So I think it stings a little bit, but I think it's going to pay off in the long term, especially by Gen 5. That cost is going to be much more digestible, but there was an upfront tax for that.
Yeah, because maybe by Gen 4 or Gen 5, you can make the argument it's going to pan out well. Like the other mons that went at the same price are like Fortress and Moltres and Dragonite and Umbreon and Gyarados and Claydol.
Snorlax was 9. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you can get 1.5 Snorlaxes for that price.
Right? But they also picked up Piloswine, which turns into Mammo next generation, and that price I can get a little bit more behind, just because I think Mamoswine's a little bit better than Roserade, just because it has a ridiculous stab typing. But I think Piloswine is more bringable in general. But my favorite mon on the roster is actually Charizard. Charizard for 12, I think, is a banger deal.
Oh yeah, especially pre-Selfrex.
Oh yeah. It's Moltres at home, but you know what? Moltres at home in Gen 3 is still pretty good.
Yeah. Especially when you have it on a multi-year deal. I think that Charizard's going to feel really bad in Gen 4 when Stealthrex come around. But then once you have the Weather Wars of Gen 5 and Charizard gets solar power, I think it's going to feel right at home again.
Yeah,
I really like the Charizard.
I think that's pretty good. Looking at some other stuff, Clefable is your normal type, because remember, it doesn't get Fairy until Gen 6, I believe. So it's still going to fill out that kind of cleric kind of role. Yeah. Some value pickup. I do like Murkrow. Yeah, I do like Murkrow for 3. You get Honchkrow next generation, which I think is... those are the kind of deals you seek out where Murkrow's not going to really do anything this gen, but in the future, it's going to give you a pretty good mixed attacker.
That's true. And you know what? I will give Roselia credit. People are talking about it in the chat, about how its roll compression with spikes and aromatherapy is really nice. And I will give it credit for that. Having a heal bell user or an aromatherapy user here is going to feel really good, especially in Gen 3 when there's so much toxic, so much paralysis is absolutely everywhere. And I do think that is going to serve it well.
All right.
Base stats.
So as someone that's drafted Roselia in Gen 3, I understand the arguments for it, but it just dies to so much stuff. Like, it does not have the bulk to really abuse a lot of the support tools it has for the long game. That's my major issue with it. Because you got to remember, there's no Eviolite present, so you don't get that little innate bump up in bulk. But
yeah, I'm with you there. I do think it's an overpay for Roselia, but it is one that's going to feel less frustrating come Gen 4 and Gen 5.
Agreed. And then I think Ludicolo is a sneaky good pickup for Gen 5 Weather Wars. Also, you can run Manual Rain Dance with that. Ampharos is a nice little electric type. I believe it also gets Heal Bell, so you got that utility against the toxic spam that you're going to see in this generation. Overall, I thought the team was pretty decent. It just made some picks that maybe I wouldn't have made, but I can understand when looking at a wider scope. So I kind of ranked this in the middle of the pack for me as far as like team power.
Yeah. I'm with you there. Wait, Roselia gets Sword Dance? Huh.
It's never clicking that. Trust me.
No, Roselia Sweep 8 coming. Trust.
Oh, okay. All right. So we got Sheffield Shiftries. Double fossil alert.
Let's go ahead and take a look.
They took Armaldo and Kraydilly, which is, I think, awesome. I actually like both of these mons in Gen 3. I think they're great. And then looking at it, though, their top end is their first round draft pick was on Magneton, which, depending what was on the board, I think there was some better stuff available, but it's not a terrible pick. Uses a hidden power really well with its attack stat. Flygon's a great pickup. Yeah. I think Flygon's really nice. It dodges spikes. It's got setup. Ground Dragon's a really good just type combo in general. And Heracross is your premier attacking bug that's not named Scyther. I think those two really compete for the title of best bug in this generation.
Yeah, I had some reservations about this team. For starters, I think the team's a little bit on the slow side. Not hugely slow. They do have Manectric, they do have Flygon, they do have Jinx. But other than that, they don't really have any like standout face runs. And I think there are going to be a couple of weeks where this team is just totally outspent. I also think this team just really doesn't have that like top end sweeping power. I think that Choice Band or Scarf Heracross or maybe Flygon can put in some work there. It's probably the best they have with that department. I think this team is really going to struggle to break those bulky mons.
Yeah, and what I look for too is if you don't have that immediate like setup power, is you either got to be good at one of other two things. That's either status spread and control or hazards, and we don't got.
And they have no hazards.
Yeah, and the hazard or the status is also. It's not the best. It's not the worst. But yeah.
Yeah, every single mon can run Toxic because that's just how Gen 3 is. But other than that, like Weezing and Will-O-Wisp, they got Thunderwave from Manectric or Magneton, but that's not... Those are nice, especially when Will-O-Wisp is so rare. I just don't think it's enough to make up for a lack of real hitting level.
Yeah. So this is why I kind of ranked it near the back end of the rosters. Unfortunately, again, there's got to be a top end and a back end, and this one just had the lack of looking at it on paper and going, wow, I got to prep for that this week or else it's going to demolish me. I feel it just lacked a little bit of that star power.
Yeah. This looks like the equivalent of in a point draft league where somebody goes, instead of picking, one or two top end mons and then doing some synergy picks, I'm just going to pick like a whole bunch of 10 or 11 pointers. And this is what it looks like. You got a bunch of mons, all of which, honestly, I do think are bringable in any given week.
And I like all the contract lengths, too. Like, there's no contract I look on here and I'm like, oh, that's egregious. I'm like, I think it's good in, like, that kind of sense, where if you get out of a lot of these mons next season, you're going to be on kind of an opportunity to really transform your team and turn it into something else if, again, it didn't work out this season. You didn't want to tag anything.
Yeah. I'm with you there.
All right. We got...
It looks like we only have one team left.
Yes, we got the New York Knickets we got to look at.
And I like this team.
I really like it too.
First of all, I like that they have a spiker and a spinner. I know that both those, especially spikers, are kind of hard to come by. But I do think that not having one, especially in a team that's trying to orient itself around balance here, would have been a really huge downside. And I really appreciate that they have one of each.
Yeah, I think in most drafts, especially for like this generation, you want one or the other is like what you want to lean into, but when you get both, it's kind of just gravy.
Yeah, I agree with you. Uh, I just like this team. It's overall really bulky, really balanced. Uh, there's not a huge amount to say about it. Like, I like Umbreon here. I like Milotic. I like Dunfan. I like Porygon. I think together those form a really nice defensive backbone.
What
And
I
then I like
like
Alexam and Aerodactyls, your fast and hard hitters.
what I like about this team, due to the preview setup of Gen 3, this is the team probably that is the biggest headache to try and predict leads on, uh, just for the sheer variance of what you might encounter, right? So dealing with Choice
Yeah.
Band Aerodactyl or Alakazam substitute sets or getting the bulky Donphan or Umbreon, it's very tricky, I would say, for that kind of mental mind game. So I think it captures that the best out of the rosters we've seen.
Yeah. Or even just running like a lead Quillfish or Spikes. I think that this team is just going to feel really good to play. And its main weakness, like you said, is that there really aren't a huge variety in what sort of sets like Umbreon or Porygon 2 or stuff like that are going to run. But that's really not as much of an issue in Gen 3 as it is in other league or in other generations, just because of the existence of no team preview.
Yeah.
That
And this was brought up in chat, but I think it's a good point to make, and it's probably the biggest issue I do have with the team as well is the contract setup for going into Gen 4 and 5. Is I think this is one of like, if you looked at it, it's a premier Gen 3 draft, but I'm not sure how well it stacks up for the future. Um, what do you
Yeah, I
think?
agree with you. I think mons like Alakazam and Aerodactyl and Quillfish are mons that are going to feel really good in season 3. But in season 4, and especially with Gen 5 power creep, um, those are not going to feel so good. And I kind of suspect that this team is gonna be wishing it had that cap space and it had that roster space to start signing mons in Gen 4, Gen 5. Even as is, I think it's just gonna have trouble signing all of its mons to draft. All like its draft
Yeah,
picks in Gen 4
like
and Gen 5.
14 points for Umbreon. I get it for Gen 3, but for Gen 5, that's a bit of a hard pill to swallow for me. Um, it's like I would almost want to like switch the contract with Donphan just so you have a reliable, bulky ground type.
Yeah, I agree with you there too. Just if this team were on 1 year deals or even 2 year deals, it would just feel so much better.
Mm-hmm. But
But
that's
that
part of the
said,
bid
as
war.
is, I do think it's like a top 3 or top 4 team in this generation. I do
Yes,
really like it as it stands in Gen 3.
I do agree. So that is our roster overview. Let me check our bid counter. Oh, we're about an hour away from Swallet. Nice.
Nice,
All
Gush
right.
Brigade getting another mon there. And as a quick note, because it looks like every team that's not quite at 9 mons yet is making an attempt to get to 9. We have the Starmies like bidding right now to get to their ninth pick, although they won't be able to use Magmar, assuming it does end up getting signed come week 1.
Yep.
We unfortunately do not get to break out the wheel to see what low tier mons are going to get signed to going to get automatically signed to teams
No
that weren't hitting
1 year,
that
one
roster
point
bonus.
deal for Metapod, unfortunately.
Shame. I was looking forward to that,
I know.
but it does look like every team is making a good effort to get to 9 mons, which I do really appreciate.
Yes. So thank you to all you wonderful coaches and mentors and people supporting your coaches, as it's a lot to keep track of out there for people looking at the just whole scope of the league. It is a lot to take on. So moving on to, I do want to look at the leaderboards real quick for just the general breakdown, so
Yeah,
we can put some of this in perspective. We're gonna zip past
go ahead
that.
and take a look.
Uh, so looking at HP first and foremost. So what would you say is like the median of like what teams should like go for? I think about 80 to 77 should be about your average HP. Again, this is your
Yeah.
general staying power. The Avalogs being over 100 is kind of insane to me.
They do have Chansey, to be fair.
They
But
do.
like even if you didn't have Chansey, uh, that's even if you didn't have Chansey, I believe they're still the highest team in average HP. Yeah, with 86.
Yeah.
So even despite that, they're just really bulky there.
Mm-hmm. But then after that, it kind of levels out. You get this kind of bell-shaped distribution with the Bouncers, the Guts Brigade, and then all the way down to the Starmies and Goats, where we talked a little bit about their bulk as well. Just to be a little middling. Again, once you start getting below that 70 threshold, that's where you kind of start going, I don't know. Especially with just how the format's played with a lot of toxic and pivots, and it's difficult to set up a lot of the time.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think the teams that have lower HP, like the Starmies and stuff like that, those are the teams that we already talked about as not feeling really bulky. Like the Starmies having to rely on like Miltank and Hypno, which synergize well together, but maybe don't quite have the stats to deal with it on the especially defensive side.
Yeah.
I think those teams are going to end up really struggling.
And then looking at offense, this is a little bit closer. There's a lot of physically offensive mons that people draft. Special attackers aren't as emphasized as much, I'd say, until Gen 4, just until you get that the physical special split. But looking at the Corviknights, all the way down at 64.5, that's a little hard of a sell for me when we're looking at a lot of Swords Dance, Curse, and Bulk Up being your primary sweeping conditions outside of Calm Mind. Mostly I like to highlight Curse because most Mons get it, and worst case scenario, you can use that as an outlet for boosting your attack power and bulk and kind of muscling through some other compositions. So
Yeah, I agree with you there. But then again, the Corp Knights, they have Skarmory and Blissey. They're running a defensive team. I think it's understandable that they're the ones that have the lowest attack.
Yeah. And then let's see if anything else speaks to us. Guts Brigade, they're pretty high in HP, very high defenses, but we'll see if that changes. They're a team in flux.
Yeah, I think what really speaks to me is if you scroll all the way over to the right for BST. This is what, like...
Oh, it's not going to let me do it. Hold on. Let me see if I can shrink this.
It's something that I just think is going to feel really good for the Bouncers. Like, the Bouncers have the highest BST, or average BST, by a wide margin. Like,
there you go. Yeah.
They have the difference between the number 1 and number 2 teams in BST is bigger than the difference between the number 2 and number 8 teams. Like the Bouncers, like we said, they do have a few weaknesses, like having a decent amount of ground type weaknesses and stuff like that. But that's something that I think can really be masked by just big stats go burr. And I think especially in a generation that is, comparatively power creep, I think that's going to serve the Bouncers really, really well here.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Moneyball approach, right? Like, it's like, what do? It's like, oh, they have big stats and hit hard. Okay, yeah, put them in. Versus...
Sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah, I mean, that works, like, across generations. As long as you're not drafting silly stuff like Slacking and Regigigas, it's hard to go wrong with just big old stats. Whereas if we look at the bottom, you have the Corviknights, the Abominous Snow, Goats, Shiftries. That's where you're looking at like 100-point difference, and those little incremental points do add up. Again, that's not accounting for like types, move pools, those kinds of things, but at the end of the day, it is a game of numbers, and having bigger ones does help.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. And that can always be made up for by good play. I know there are teams that are
yeah,
like
the whole team building aspect is the other side of the coin too. Yeah, agreed.
Play. But yeah, exactly. Sometimes big stats go burr. Like you can make up with bad play for good stats, or good play for bad stats. But why do one or the other when you can have both?
Agreed. All right. Do we want to do a little game review as well? Just kind of preview what that'll look like in the
I am
future?
absolutely down for that.
All right.
Let's do
So,
it.
let me...
Because we have a wild KO leaders list right now.
yeah.
I think it's good to go ahead and explain them.
Yeah, and I think some people aren't as familiar with Generation 3 gameplay, so it'll be kind of nice to narrate and go through it and kind of just see what things are shaping up to be. So let me
I don't
transfer...
think many of us are. To my knowledge, you're the only one that I know of in this league with Gen 3 draft experience.
That's terrifying.
I love it. I love everybody trying to learn it as they go. I think it'll both mean we get to see some wild strategies, and I think that it means that teams and playstyles are really going to tighten up as the season progresses, and I am all for that.
Yeah, I'm trying to get... Why is this being so silly? I want you to move up. Sorry, technical difficulties. Yeah, that's there. I should have hit it. Do that. Yeah. There we go. Hold on.
C2 has played in RSC League. Okay, so we have at least one franchise owner with Gen 3 draft experience.
Good. Why is it not doing that? Bid tracker. Doc. Hold on. This is being goofy for me. Technical difficulties.
Yeah, no worries. If you go to the Corvinex page, the results does have a.
I got it.
The results do have hyperlinks. Yeah.
Boop. And then let me fix this formatting. So. Look at that. On the fly.
Nice. All right, let's go ahead and watch it.
All right. So. We're going to play with sound off.
We'll
go slow. We'll do sound muted. Yes. So remember, you'd have to pick your lead first. You have to order your Pokemon. So you don't know who's leading with what or what they brought. So here we get a Jolteon and Claydol lead, which kind of necessitates Jolteon having to switch out unless they have Hidden Power Grass or Water.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Or even just like Earthquake or something like that. Yeah. I think it was both teams forgot about the fact that Team Preview isn't enabled in Gen 3 or something like that.
Yep.
I know PF mentioned it in chat. Which, makes sense. We're still getting used to it. It is the inaugural game for the league. But honestly, I don't really hate Claydol as a lead there. Just ensure that they can't get spikes up early. And just, it's a fairly bulky mon. It's reasonably fast. It's something that they absolutely have the capacity to deal with like Gyarados, but force him to bring those counters in before he deals anything.
Yeah, so with this kind of lead, it's if I'm PF right here, it's a pretty free Earthquake to click, just to test the waters, because Jolteon's gonna have to switch. Jolteon's only real move is probably Click Substitute if it's a Pitaya Berry variant, but it's most likely switching out. If you want to be really big brain, you could click Toxic, but you don't want to just risk getting substituted on. So the EQ is going to be your most free move.
Agreed.
So let's see what they do. Yep, you get the switch to the flying type.
And then they predict, and then they rock slide us.
Ooh, so pretty good predict, but you don't got crazy statistics. So that's not bad for the Gyarados to come in here. It's pretty safe. You'd be looking to D-Dance or threaten Waterfall. And so now the pressure's on PF to switch out.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And especially when PF team doesn't have a huge amount of, good Gyarados counters. Like, Skarmory is your main one.
Yeah, so if you're Sao, you're expecting the Skarmory to come in. Blissey probably wouldn't come in. Let's see what happens. So Articuno. So they brought in Articuno, and then they D-danced. So, what would you do here if you're looking at +1 Gyarados with Articuno?
If
So
I'm +1 Gyarados is Articuno, I'd probably just go for the attack. I don't know if Gyarados has coverage for Articuno, like if it runs like Rock Slide or something like that.
most of the
But if it
time,
does,
if
just
it's
go for
running
that.
Hidden Power, it's going to be Hidden Power Flying for the Flying Stab. And then it's
That's
going to
true.
run usually a mix of Waterfall, Earthquake, and Dragon Dance. That's going to be your most generic set.
Makes sense. Although Waterfall being special is always hooks.
Yeah.
The physical special split. But yeah, no, I just hit them. I got a +1 up. Articuno is, if they're saying Articuno is their best counter, then they don't really have a good counter for Gyarados. And if I can get good damage off on Articuno, then all the better. They can't really do much to me.
Yeah. So let's see. You get Hyper Beam, critical Hyper Beam, in Haze.
Wild.
That is. Predictions are out the window. Never in a million years would I have guessed Hyper Beam comes out, especially critting. The fact that Articuno survives this is just a testament to just, hey, if you draft big stats, like, you're given opportunities.
Oh, 100%.
So, with
Unfortunately,
Gyarados,
it doesn't have Roost, because Roost isn't a thing till Gen 4. So
Yeah.
the damage on Articuno is basically permanent, but still.
yeah, it's pretty good. So, if I'm Articuno, like, you get a free Toxic here if you want it, because they got to recharge. So, if we look at that, you get
Or
lefties.
you can just go and get off damage. Either works.
Hidden Power. So, I'm guessing it's Hidden Power Electric? No, it wouldn't be Electric. It has to be something else. It's Hidden Power Rock, maybe?
Did it say super effective?
It did say super effective. It only did 38%, though.
Yeah, it has to be Rock then. I don't, because, Rock and Electric are their only weaknesses, and no way did a 4 times super effective move only do 40%.
Gyarados comes back with Hidden Power, Ko's, standard damage. And so now you get Mr. Mime.
Flying, probably.
This is probably because you're predicting the Hidden Power. No, because they'd have to run Hidden Power Flying most likely for the stab type. That's what I would think. So you're free from, like, I don't know about the Mr. Mime play. Like, you do have speed.
I probably would have just gone. I probably would have just gone to Skarmory or something. Oh no, because they don't have the +1. Mr.
Yeah,
Mime
you're
would
outspeed. You
be
got
that
T-Bolt as a
yeah.
kill. So you might want to swap
Yeah.
the Jolteon. They go Sceptile. Psychic.
And they Psychic, which, okay. If Psychic would have killed Gyarados anyway, then, totally fair play.
Yeah, which you
big
have
damage
speed
on
with
Sceptile.
Sceptile. It doesn't put you in overgrow range, which is kind of unfortunate. You would really like that grass boost.
Yeah.
So
You go for
here,
Crunch.
you go for Crunch. Remember, Crunch is special.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Crunch being
And,
special
get-
kind of is rough, too, because Mr. Mime actually has decent special defenses. I don't know.
Like 120 space special defense or something like that.
Yeah, so I don't know if, like, clicking just stab Leaf Blade, or not Leaf Blade, but just clicking a physical move may have been better there. I don't know what the exact calc is.
Yeah. Or even, I have to run the calcium with Giga Drain or something like that, but I would have just guessed that did more at that point. Just from having the stab, and especially if it means you survive another Psychic.
Yeah, so
I don't know, maybe it didn't have Giga Drain or something.
maybe. We'll check the sets at the end. Let me move this in a little bit more.
I got the final sets pulled up. It looks like the Sceptile was running Leaf Blade with Miracle Seed, in which case, yeah, I have to say, I would have guessed that Leaf Blade would have done more. Especially if they're running
I'll move
Miracle
it back.
Seed.
Yeah, it looks better. I
162
was gonna see if I could fit in
versus-
the sidebar, but okay. Go
Yeah.
old school. So Jolteon comes back in, so force the swap. Yeah, Blissey just eats the T-Bolt. So you gotta have to
and
switch
this is
with
what the
Jolteon
Sound
out.
Whisper is.
So Primeape comes
Yeah.
in, Ice Beam. Remember, Blissey actually has somewhat decent special attack for this generation. And then
yeah, 75, I think it is. It's totally palatable.
Yeah, and then there's the Brick Break. You get the crit, too. So remember, there's no Roost, so Skarmory's just eating him. And then here come the spikes.
Yep, and those spikes are absolutely huge when we have not seen any sort of removal from Sales Goats. And if I recall correctly, they're one of the teams that didn't have any removal.
So, yeah. So here we go. Entei comes in. And Entei... Oh. There we go. I want to get the name in. Resized it incorrectly. There we go.
Yep.
Entei eats the hidden power, which I have to imagine it was hidden power flying for the Primeape, because they're trying to get damage off.
Yeah. It was flying.
So Claydol comes back in. You get Sunny Day. So this is kind of wild to me. You get the Solar Beam. It lives a crit, which...
Hilarious.
Dang. Rock Slide comes in.
That's a huge crit, actually, too, because remember, this is in the days of double crits.
Yeah, eats the Citrus Berry, too. Then you get Flamethrower, so Claydol's dead in the water. And then Houndoom, so you got Flash Fire. There's no reason to run Early Bird here. So you gotta click Solar Beam. I don't know what their other moves are, though. They have one move unrevealed. Crunch, Special Crunch. You protect...
Yeah, and Entei, it looks like his final move was Hidden Power Grass, for the record.
So, I don't know why... Why would you click Flamethrower there? Are you trying to call it a switch?
It must be, because they definitely have Flash Fire here.
That's another thing.
I'll have to check. But
there's no reason you'd switch in Skarmory. Mr. Mime's too low. And it'd be just for Blissey, but... I don't understand that play.
Yeah. On the other hand, Entei really can't do anything to Houndoom.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I guess even in that situation, just, Solar Beam or Hidden Power Grass and get the, 11% off on Houndoom. It's at least something.
Yeah.
Entei can't switch it.
It's guaranteed chip. So Sun goes away. And then...
And then forgot about the...
Yeah.
Forgot about the
charge time.
The Sun going away. Yep.
All right. Primeape comes in, so it's going to force a switch. So Skarmory's most likely going to swap in, which you do see the Skarmory. It's going to eat the Brick Break. Which I wonder here. I'm going to pause. Does Mr. Mime eat a Brick Break? 35%.
Ooh.
You want to run that calc real quick?
Yeah, let me go ahead and take a look.
I'm curious. Because you resist it. Like, you have dog water defenses, but it's just regular Primeape. There's no boost.
Yeah. Primeape with Brick Break. It's not like Choice Band or anything like that. It is max attack Jolly. Brick Break to 31 to 37.
And Mr. Mime is 35. Ooh, it's a roll.
So yeah, that's personally a roll I decide to go for. 37% chance to Oka.
Yeah, I think I would have taken it too instead of risking more chip on Skarm. But Skarm is definitely the safe play.
Can't really blame someone for not going for the for not betting their luck there.
Yeah,
but still.
Okay, so keep rolling. Switch out to Jolteon. Looking to pressure the Skarm. Hidden Power not very effective, so confirmed Hidden Power flying.
Yeah.
Blissey comes in. Thunderbolt. And so...
And Tauros.
Yeah, so final Pokemon's Tauros, which is good, but we get the Wish off. And remember, Blissey... So we're going to probably switch to Skarm.
Yeah, because I think it lived to hit a non-crit hit there.
But you get the paralysis. So that is pretty big.
Yeah.
You go back to Jolteon, but spikes are doing work. Oh, miss the toxic. Oh, it's rough.
Kind of a huge miss. especially in combination with the next turn with the thunder paralysis.
So we got Thunderbolt and Thunder. Blissy's paralyzed. You hit another Thunder, just trying to bully their way through. They get parried.
Yeah.
So I don't mind just staying
that,
in here because there's the miss. And there's the wish.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the issue with staying in. Even if you stay in there, Jolteon just
You go for bite. Bite's got a flinch chance.
Unless it gets...
You know, that's interesting. You could just bite para because you get the para flinch chance.
You could para flinch, but considering a crit did like, what was that?
You got 40 PP of bite.
15%?
Like, that might just be the better option instead of risking missing Thunder. And then you die to Ice Beam.
But a crit did 15%. A non-crit was doing 7% and barely damaging leftovers.
But isn't paralysis 50% in Gen 3, not like 33?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so I would take that odds even though it's a little bit cheesier.
Tauros. In any case, they do send out Tauros.
So here's your end game. You know. So you still got Scar and Bliss intact, which is the big hurdle here, and you got to break through it with 3 physical walls. Now the good news is, oh, they miss another toxic. That is brutal. That's 2. You're 0 for 2. Low kick crit. Jeez, another crit.
That's huge.
But you do get the hidden power off. You don't get paralocked.
Yep. And just go ahead and
go to Houndoom
for some reason.
Yeah,
I guess for the extra tick of leftovers.
Unless you want to free switch to Skarmory again. Yeah, unless it's for the tick of leftovers and you're just trying to game around crit.
Which, maybe. But at that point, I feel like you got to risk the crit. Because now you're just risking... You're still basically just risking the crit.
Okay, so this is big here. If you get paralyzed, it's kind of a wrap. Hidden power.
Yeah.
It's neutral. Toxic finally lands, so... Hooray. Hidden power.
And then another crit.
And so now you got Blissey against the world that's that's paralyzed.
In Gen 3, it's like 1 in 24 for crit, right?
Yeah, it's... So you protect, get lefties, go back up the full, get the toxic drain.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, just gear up for the wish protect.
You go for hidden power.
Anyway.
You go for wish.
And just a side note, this Blissey is Serene Grace.
Yeah, because it didn't get the natural cure.
Switched out.
So I don't know why you'd switch out.
Freeze, I guess.
Because Tauros is dead to poison anyway in spikes, so I don't really get the switch. Like, they're going to click protect anyways.
Yeah.
But sure.
Just get it. Just
EQ.
Get another body slam there. Or it was choice band, so I guess another hidden power.
And we got Bolt Beam.
Yeah. And Blissey takes it.
Wow.
Blissey, the current kill leader in the league. With a higher differential than every other mon combined.
As everyone predicted.
Oh, yeah.
Looking at the teams, looks like it was Hidden Power Electric Houndoom, Hidden Power Flying Skarmory, Hidden Power Rock Articuno, and then, Bolt Beam Blissey. And then Mr. Mime was Hidden Power Dark. With Twisted Spoon. I don't know.
Espeon, I guess?
Yeah, I guess it would be for Espeon if they came, but they didn't bring them. And then Claydol had Hidden Power Bug, which I would imagine is probably for Espeon, and Sceptile.
Sceptile, too. Yeah.
And then...
So,
Hidden Power Fire Sceptile. Yeah, with Miracle Seed makes sense. Primeape had Hidden Power Ghost. I guess that'd be for Claydol. And then, Tauros was Choice Band. So it's Choice Band, Hidden Power Fighting. Which I gotta wonder, because they're clicking Hidden Power at the end, is Choice Band Body Slam with Stab just better than Hidden Power Fighting?
I have to think so, right? Because, 85 times 1.5, 127. No, Hidden Power Fighting does more.
Okay.
base 140 after the super effective versus base 128.
Right, because hidden power
After
is
stab.
70, not 60.
Yeah, but if so, then damn, Blissey being able to take those hits and only take so little from
Yeah.
Boros is kind of wild.
Okay. Well, very cool. That
Yeah.
is our game review. That was a very close game. I liked that. Anything else you want to add on before we wrap up
That was
here
a fun one to
and
watch.
look to the season? Do we want to check out the other schedules looking ahead or sign off? We've been yapping for a bit.
I'm not opposed to scrolling through them real quick. We do have some fun matchups. For everybody who didn't notice, by the way, the schedules for each team are officially on the league doc now. You can go ahead and see who you're facing in your first couple of matches.
Yeah. So as we can see here, whoop, there we go. And yeah, so here's our schedule. And then going through, I'm actually running a little bit low for time, but you can check out your schedules for yourselves, and we will be eagerly awaiting to see who you play against.
Yeah. As a reminder, even though we have already had one match, the season does officially start in an hour and 7 minutes. And teams can get started then, or I guess get started now if they want to play their games.
Yeah.
We have, as a reminder, a week for each match, or for each round of games, and we have 5 rounds of games this season before we jump into the playoffs. So I'm excited to see how teams do.
Indeed. Anyways, thank you for joining us. And again, if you didn't catch the live stream of it, it'll be available on the channel for the VOD. So good luck out there. And again, if you know people that want to join in as an assistant mentor, coach, or perhaps as an expansion team in a few months, let us know. Yeah. We'll be excited to see how this...
And I think that's about it.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Without further ado, that concludes our preview stream. We look forward to seeing y'all games.
All right. Signing off. Thank you for joining us. Bye.